It's time for a Drummer Nation. Best known for his work with Count Basie and Tony Bennett, in his 6-decade career, Harold Jones has toured and recorded with Frank Sinatra, Duke Ellington, Oscar Peterson, B.B. King, and Ray Charles. Cited by Basie as his favorite drummer, Harold recorded an amazing 15 albums with the band in just a 5-year period. He authored an autobiography called The Singer's Drummer and was inducted into the PAS Hall of Fame in 2013. He continues at age 78 to tour and record with singer Tony Bennett and teaches workshops at colleges and universities. My guest, Harold Jones, after this. Sound Synergy's Percussion Care lubricants and conditioners include a series of 3 products for total drum kit care and maintenance. Percussion Care products in your gig bag ensures your entire kit will always look and sound its best. Check out their website at soundsynergies.net.
I absolutely love playing drums, and I couldn't imagine not having that in my life. And I really, if I could help facilitate that and have an impact on your life so that you can play drums, that means the world to me.
The things that make for a successful gig vary, but when there's a drummer in the band, the drummer really drives it, and it all comes down to the stick. Ultimately, the right stick gives you the sound that you want.
Created specifically for practice sessions, quiet tone practice cymbals by Sabian are designed to respond and feel like traditional cymbals, right down to their clearly defined bell, so the drummers won't have to change the way they play. Quiet tone practice cymbals by Sabian.
Hi, this is Stanton Moore. I've been playing and teaching drums for over 30 years. My new site, Stanton Moore Drum Academy, is the perfect online drum learning platform for any level drummer to learn how to play the drums the same way I did. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of you as subscribers on the site, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun.
It is my esteemed honor today to have as a guest on the show the one and only Harold Jones. Harold, how are you, man? Thank you for doing my show.
I'm just fine, Michael, and thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, man.
Well, I have the privilege of interviewing great world-class artists, drummers every week, but every now and then one comes across my screen that just knocks me out. I'm in total awe. I'm a big fan, and I got to tell you that right up front.
Oh, thank you.
Always been one of my favorite drummers. Let's go briefly. It's not a long format, so briefly we'll go back. You're from Richmond, Indiana, I know. And
Yeah.
How did you get rolling as a drummer as a kid?
Well, I was, they had a music program in the summertime. My mom said, you're going to learn to play something. That's a long story, but short story is I came out of it playing drums and the summer music thing. And in Indiana, there was nothing else to do. So you joined the band, the orchestra, the marching band. We did all of those type things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you have any notable teachers back then?
They were just really good public school teachers that were into the students learning music. Yeah. And I mean, like one of my first teachers was a Jack Kurkowski, who he owned his own xylophone band, and they played in vaudeville in those pits. So I had the bass drum with the wood block and the cowbell on it,
Mm-hmm.
and the bass drum was so high we played stick beats on the bass drum with on the top of the head there.
New Orleans style.
Yeah. So I learned to read in Indiana. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And how did you get shifted into drum set?
Well, somehow or other, when I got my first drum, they were sold out of the Ludwig drums, by the way, in my little town of Richmond. And so they ordered one, and the newest one that came in was the same one drum that Max Roach was playing. And so there was a drummer in my hometown named Joe Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another long story.
Yeah, I know who Joe Hunt is, yeah.
Okay. Well, Joe Hunt met me in high school. I think he could have been a senior when I was a freshman even. But he said, "Oh, you're the kid with the Max Roach snare drum." I didn't even know what he was talking about. So he said, "Hey, you ought to come to one of our sessions, like we can use you."
Mm-hmm.
And so Joe Hunt, man, introduced me to Charlie Parker, jazz, and started with, I was listening to Art Blakey, and he got me into Max and some formats, and he got me into everything. And I went on from there here in drummer.
All the cats. I read you sat in at a very young age with Wes Montgomery.
Oh, yeah. Well, we were working the gig. I was working the gig at the Hubbub in Indianapolis, and they used to have to sneak me in the club because I was probably 15. I was too young to drive. There was a buddy that was older than me drove me to there, and um, we played gigs. All I remember when West started playing this entire packed nightclub, everybody in the audience, you'd see all these heads going up and down, all up and down at the same time, like you do at some really of those great rock festivals when they're all in unison. West was doing that. Yeah,
This would have been when, the late 60s?
50s.
50s. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what's the period between then and you were on the Basie band in the 70s, right?
67, I joined him.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know you did it for 5 years, 67 to
Yeah.
72.
Yeah.
How did that come about? How did you take us from early days in playing with Wes to ending up on the Basie band?
Created specifically for practice sessions, quiet tone practice cymbals by Sabian are designed to respond and feel like traditional cymbals. Drummers will appreciate their greatly reduced sonic footprint at practice sessions, drum sessions, or anytime they need quiet cymbals. Not only do they feel like a traditional cymbal, they produce a distinct, clearly defined bell tone, offering drummers a much more accurate and natural playing environment. Quiet tone cymbals are manufactured from a tough, durable alloy that resists dents and stains while looking great on any kit. Quiet tone practice cymbals by Sabian.
Oh yeah, well I did a lot of things in between there. We did there was that Eddie Harris, and he had that first jazz record to sell 1 million copies on Exodus. So we did our slight tours on the road. That was one of my experiences. There was tours I did with percussion ensemble with Roger Williams. I did a 23 country tour with Paul Winter for John Kennedy. So there was a whole lot of things that went on in there while I was still trying to go to school.
That Paul Winter was pretty what they called out back then, right?
He didn't start getting out until after me. I don't think, because it was right after he switched from drum set to percussionist. You know,
Right, I see.
it wasn't a hi-hat 2 and 4 swing.
Right,
So
right.
that's when I feel that he started doing that. And then, I mean, he wanted to hear what it sounded like in a cave in the Grand Canyon.
Well, he's had some great bands through the years. But
Yeah, ain't no drummer getting to that gig.
speaking of getting to the gig, I met you once when you were in town in Atlanta playing with Natalie Cole, and I was playing the house gig at the Ritz, and we knew Freddie Cole, so they all came over to the hotel, and I have a picture of you and me from that night.
Oh, man, those were some good memories, man.
It was
I mean,
great.
dear people like Freddie and Natalie, man. That was a great show she had. Huh?
I couldn't. I was working that night, but
Oh, yeah, okay. That's right.
I remember a funny thing you said. I said, was most of the band local? And you said, very. It's one of the funniest things I've ever heard. But I'll try to find that picture. I have a picture of us somewhere from that night. So
Okay.
when you got on the Basie band, you were following some great drummers and ended up as one of the ones Basie himself called his favorite drummer. Who were some of your predecessors that were influential to you on that band?
Well, I got to say Papa Joe, and then I got to say Sonny Payne. I mean, I was amazed he can throw those sticks in the air and not drop one, you know. And mainly just those two, because when I got the gig, the first night at the Rainbow Room in New York City at the Empire State Building, Papa Joe Jones came down to see the band and the new drummer. First thing he did was on intermission, he comes up to my shirt and he opens it up and looks down in there and see what kind of T-shirt I was wearing. And of course, I had on a red nylon just with the straps, the Italian style, you know. And he says, "Man, you can't afford to look pretty. You better get you a cotton T-shirt." And so, I mean, I think I went from hip to knowing something. Started right there.
He had some interesting ideas about having to wear white socks.
He did. He did. He put the black socks on over it maybe, and wear a shoe size larger.
What was that all about?
Back then, the dye from the materials would get in your skin.
Mm.
And I guess they really didn't have it as together as they do today. And so the dye, you would sweat, and that dye would get into your skin, and somehow or other they were dealing with that. He was thinking of that then. Cotton T-shirt and white socks.
I'll be darned. I never knew why. He's got this legend of little quirks
And
he's
I mean,
famous for.
I've hung out with drummers, and the same thing was told to me by Buddy Rich and Louis Bellson after the gig. Man, I mean, yeah.
Got any other crazy, quirky words of wisdom for us?
Well, if you watch out for your health, the rest of it should take care of itself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and we have to be thinking about our health. I mean, when we're young, it's like a roll of toilet paper. It doesn't matter how much you go through or use. But when you get to the end of that roll, life is running out, man. So you gotta be thinking of how you gonna go about what.
Well, I'm not going to ask you your age, but you look fantastic, and you're still out there touring with Tony Bennett all the time, right?
Yeah, man. Yeah, we're in New York this next week.
I know it's been hard. It's been hard to get you on the phone because you're so darn busy.
Well, I just knock on wood, just because for an old guy, I'm 77, going to be 78 next month. But I mean, we're happy to be working, you know.
Sound Synergy's Percussion Care lubricants and conditioners include a series of 3 products for total drum kit care and maintenance. Pedal Lube, the only product specifically designed for bass drum, hi-hat pedals, and triggers, as well as all moving metal parts and drum hardware, safely removes grit, grime, and other contaminants while protecting against harmful friction wear. Cymbal Care restores and conditions cymbal surfaces without strippers or harmful polishes. Wear Barrier is a conditioning formula for all drum heads, rims, and even sticks. Percussion Care products in your gig bag ensures your entire kit will always look and sound its best. What do you attribute to being able to stay on the top of your game that long? A lot of drummers come up and they have some years and they sound great and they're wonderful drummers, but to stay at the top of your field and work with the best players in the world for 50 years, there aren't many guys in that category. What do you attribute that to?
Well, like I said, if I'd known I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself.
You look
I'm
good.
telling you, yeah, it's something. But coming up under an education, knowing you had to practice, and I was always prepared when I went into whatever we were doing, whatever job I got. Because in Chicago, I was doing theater work. Mm-hmm. They had rows of theaters back there then, and I loved it. I really did. And yeah.
Do you still think it's important for young drummers to learn big band and reading and jazz styles for phrasing and so forth?
I'm definitely going to say he should learn to read. That's the shortcut. He don't have to hang out 7 nights a week for 10 years to learn something. You can get it done in 2 or 3 years. Mm-hmm. If you read. Because guys like me, but the other guys that are writing the books are saving them some shortcuts. And just so they learn to slow down for curves. And yeah, the only advice I can give is just keep practicing and never shut anything out. Never think that, well, I don't like this or I don't like that. But I mean, I wondered why they're so good. Well, each drummer in every category is in a pocket. Boy, and it is swinging.
They call it pocket now. They used to call it swinging. It's all the same thing, right? It's got to work or it doesn't, and it certainly does when you play. Now, when you went on the Basie band, what was the significance of Freddie Green to the time feel?
Well, I can't enough be said about Freddie because he sat right next to me on the trombone row, and when my hi-hat was on 2 and 4, I didn't even hear it because his guitar was so synced in. And once you get that going, you can almost hit anything over here at any time because it's like there. And with the bass player on the other side, that I could reach out and touch his amp. And this is almost preamp. Mm-hmm. But you could reach out and touch him. And with those 2 sounds, you hear it there before you hear it out in the room somewhere. So now that it's going to electronics and the rooms are getting bigger and they're having bands set up farther and farther apart, it's getting more weird, I would say, as to what you're really dealing with sound-wise. Yeah.
Did Basie ever give you any instruction?
No, no. I mean, I can't. Everybody else in the band did.
That's true of every big band, right?
Everybody did. I mean, Marshall Royal, he wouldn't turn around and look at me unless he thought maybe somebody let a fart. It was just one of those.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I hate for him to turn around and look at me, even.
What are you looking at? Yeah.
Yeah, really. But there were guys that took me under their wing, like Lockjaw, who was a straw boss.
Was he?
And yeah, and so long as that swing was there for Lockjaw solos, he was happy. So he kind of took me under his wing. Yeah.
Now, there's some great stuff of you on that band on YouTube. I know everybody who is interested should look up you playing the Magic Flea, which is a barn burner with a great drum solo. What do you think of the fact that so much of that music is out on YouTube and such? Is it great that it's there for young players, or is it a drag that it's there because nobody got paid on it, or what's your take on that?
Well, I would have said the last part first. It was a drag because nobody got paid on it like that. Now I got to say, well, hell, I want them to hear it. Because where else are they going to hear it? There aren't the ballrooms or dance rooms or clubs big enough to have a big band anymore. And back then, there was, 50 big bands touring the country. Every city, every state, and there was roots. But now today, there isn't a big band. I worry about that because of when I go in to help out in a big band of a high school around here or something, where's the kid even going to go in town to hear a big band? So I'm thinking it should be out there. It's got to get out there. We don't want them to completely miss it like that.
That's the dichotomy, yeah. It's a shame that nobody's being compensated for it, and that intellectual property has just become the Wild West with a crapshoot.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, we can see these great drummers of yesteryear from well back, long before you, and it's great to be able to see that.
Hey everybody out there in cyber world, this is Adam Nussbaum.
Hi, Dave DeCenzo here.
Hi, Bermuda Schwartz here.
Hey everyone, Stanton Moore here.
Hey guys, Johnson Pesta here.
Hey everybody, this is John J.R. Robinson.
Hi, Todd Zuckerman here for the Drum Center of Portsmouth. They're knowledgeable, they'll be able to help you and guide you and make the right choices for you and the music that you play.
From Wingnut to Wuhan, these chaps know what they're talking about. Highly recommended. But what do I know? I'm a drummer.
Now, you've also worked with a lot of singers, man. I have, just on the top of my head here, Sarah Vaughan, Tony Bennett, Ray Charles. Sorry, I can't read my own writing. Natalie Cole, we talked about Nancy Wilson, Sammy Davis, Ella Fitzgerald. Holy smoke. Did that come out of the work with the Basie Band?
Yeah. Yeah, I got to say, yeah. Because Basie didn't work all the time, and the singers would only go out for a weekend. Like like with Tony, I was living in New York. We'd go down to Copacabana in Florida and do the weekend, or do a Fairmont in one of those cities around the country for the weekend, and then go back, and then basically go back out for another 2 weeks or so.
And many of those singers back then their book was a big band, right?
Yes.
But also with singers, you had a lot of intimate stuff too, where you'd have to play trio and take that energy that we just talked about on Magic Flea and make it work in a very intimate setting with a quiet singer. How do you approach that? Just listen and...
Yes, very carefully. Yeah, man, that's what I loved about the big band, is that you could go from triple P with a piano, bass, and singer to triple forte. It covered all the dynamics. Like when you get in a quintet or something like that, after the end of the night, you've been in a certain volume level, and it almost gets monotone. Sometimes. The good bands, they don't. But yeah. But anyway, but in a big band, wow, it's like an orchestra that's got free reign there to float some. And I just love it.
That's what I like about big bands. I mean, I'm a sucker for a great big band. They breathe. You've got dynamics. You've got phrasing. You've got jazz soloists that can hold their own. Maybe a boy or girl singer that can come out and kill it. The leader puts the stamp on the band. That's another thing that's interesting to me. The leaders, Basie, classic example, iconic band leader, he stands up and kicks off a tune. If anybody else stood up and kicked off that tune, it's kind of a different band, isn't it?
Right. Exactly right.
How does that happen,
Listen, I don't know because sometimes we'd go to some place like Vegas to one of the big rooms, and we'd have an afternoon rehearsal. Now we're in there with the rehearsal would start maybe at 1 o'clock, and we're reading down the chart with the music director. Then at 1:30 or two, Basie and whoever the star was would maybe come on in. And when Basie entered the room, the band sounded different. I mean, I can't explain it, but I'm going to say within myself, I was playing like this. When I saw Basie come into the room, it went down into it just,
Serious business.
yeah. So Basie, when he was there, man.
That's what I miss in the college bands. I'll hear some college bands that are just great. The pitch is perfect. The saxophones are matching their vibrato. The dynamics are there. The phrasing is wonderful. Even the soloists are great, but it just doesn't have that guy, somebody who puts a stamp on it with his own personality.
Yes, yeah. And when I go around to some of these little high schools around here, I try to inject that into the drummer to kind of like run the band and let them feel the vibration from him because Basie called me the governor. And that's why he gave me free reins. I was a governor, and he never, it was like I take care of the little things, he'd take care of the big things, and the big things never came up. It was always on me to do it. But I mean, guys in the band would suggest something like, this is such and such a flute solo coming up. Maybe you want to go to brushes. And that would be the only thing when they would tell me, a direction. They'd set me in. Everything was helping me, really. Yeah.
So in a big band, the drummer is sort of the de facto leader, don't you think?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, I do.
We're all going to get blamed on it anyway, so it might as well be right. Might as well take the credit. Just a few little dates. I know in 1972 you were voted Downbeat new jazz artist for the year. That doesn't happen for a drummer very often. That must have felt great.
Oh, and it's the only time it ever happened for a big band drummer. It's the only time it ever happened, and it's never happened again since. And now with big bands like they are, I'll probably hope.
It's not going to happen now. So that was on the tail run. I think you guys did 15 albums in the 5 years you were with Basie, culminating in.
And I tell you, I've got another 10 or 15 bootlegs.
Yeah.
What
are your favorite releases that you were on back then?
Oh, I got to say that one you said that the Magic Flea's on.
Mm-hmm.
That one. There was one Basie and Sarah Vaughan, Send in the Clowns.
Oh yeah, I have that. Yeah.
There was one. I want to say it was live at the Tropicana with Joe Williams.
Love Joe Williams.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, he had such a long history with that band too.
Yeah, yeah. And I tell you, the band could be sounding good, and when Joe came on stage, it sounded better. Yeah.
Let's talk about 2013. You were inducted into the Percussive Arts Society Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. That must have felt terrific.
It really did. It really did.
I mean, that's not like a reader's poll from a Playboy or something. This is the creme de la creme of drummers across the world.
Yeah.
Holding you in as one of their own.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Go ahead.
I got to go around and thank each and every one of them. I'm telling you. Yeah, because I mean, I like the recognition. When you know you have at least been in the trenches working.
Oh, yeah. Now you have a book out. What's the name of your book, your autobiography?
It's called The Singer's Drummer. And that's just because I worked with a lot of singers because they'd go out for a weekend or 2 weeks or something and come back home. But they needed a drummer that could read. So that helped me out a whole lot. And then I learned to swing with all the really good bass players I got to play with.
Well, there's singers, drummers, they need to read. But what else makes you a singer's drummer?
You know how to play to stay out of the way. Don't step on any words. And maybe help on something that they want to emphasize. You don't want to get into showbiz like it's a Broadway play. But if you hear a tenor player going up and up in sound, you can start to build your sound of going up and up. You don't want that to happen because he fell down and you weren't looking. You were playing with your eyes closed. So, I just say, I don't know. Just be aware with all of your senses. Keep your eyes open, your ears open. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you still get a real charge out of playing every night?
Yeah. I had to think about that because.
Well, I know the travel is a pain in the ass.
Well, like I say, I mean, I can go into town to the local club and sit in and play a set with them. These guys. And I think to myself, wow, I played the same way for $50 that I did for $500. I mean, but you play the same way. You're not going to try to play any less. And yet you got to keep the local things going because the really good ones don't come along but every so often, seasons. And, yeah, I'm going to say I get a charge out of it, especially with the more you get to improvise. That's what I was going to say. If we're jamming, it's all special.
All fresh and new every time.
Yeah, yeah.
Does Tony Bennett give you a lot of freedom on that?
Oh, yeah, he does. He does. We end up having to set, though, a same type pattern in a show. So everybody hears it. We always hit together and clean so everybody knows where one is. It won't be like a jam session where you hear them come in, count the number of cats in the band. So there is a pattern to everything that we play that's similar each time. But otherwise.
But it's not a production-based show, right? I mean, there's not like a loop going on with tracks in the background and the lights are tied into the click and all that stuff, right?
Oh, no. Matter of fact, the guitar player and I, we get a kick out of the show every night because every now and then there'll be something happening and Tony or the piano player soloing and I'll play some fill and the guitar player play the same fill at the same time, and so, yeah, it's a great fill because we heard that's where the breath was going to come, Yeah.
So I presume you have no plans of backing off and stopping these days, right?
Right. Not at all.
Straight ahead and strive for tone, they used to say.
That's it.
So where can we see you coming up?
Well, with Tony, we're going to be down in Florida the month of February. You know what? I haven't looked beyond that. Yeah. But the month of February, I'm down in Florida, about 6 different cities.
And where do you live?
I live in San Francisco. I live north of it, Marin County.
Beautiful, man. A lot of great musicians up there still.
Yeah.
All right, well, you keep playing and I'll keep listening. I can promise you that. And I can't thank you enough for doing my show. Any young drummers, if you don't know who Harold Jones is, hopefully you do now. And look this man up because he is as bad as they come.
All right, Michael, thank you, man. 10 minutes a day and I'll show you a genius, man. Yeah.
Might take me longer. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it.
Okie doke, man. All right. Bye-bye.
This is your host, Michael Vosbein, and I'd like to thank our friends at Sabian Cymbals, Sound Synergies, Stanton Moore Drum Academy, and Drum Center of Portsmouth. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.